Good evening. And to another edition of Import Export Platform Facebook Live, brought to you by 3 Team Trade Academy. My name is Dele Ayemibo, and this evening we'll be discussing a new series that I've titled Understanding Export Documentation. Understanding Export Documentation. I'm looking at it generally, but I'll be specifically looking at it from Nigerian perspective. This might take us for some few days, probably till Wednesday or Thursday, and then we'll start another series from that time. Understanding export documentation. Understanding export documentation. Documentation is very key in international trade. It's so important and so key that we literally cannot do much without documentation. And what I mean by this is the fact that but for documentation, maybe there will not be international trade. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that. Considering the fact that buyers will have to wait for the good to arrive, for them to have access to the goods. But what's interesting about it is that that buyer will have paid more often than not before he sees the goods. Now, the implication of that is that if the buyer will have paid before he sees the goods, that means that the buyer is going to rely solely on document. The buyer is going to rely solely on document to do that transaction. So in international trade, documents are seen as if they are goods themselves. In the sense that the way we treat document is as if that is the goods. Why? Because you will not be able to do much until you see the goods, and you might need to pay the other party before you see the goods. So you likely rely on document. 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 So we'll be discussing different kind of documentation in international trade. Different type of documentation in international trade. Like I said, export is likely a business of documentation. Now, at the end of this program or this series on understanding export documentation, I will expect that we should have had an understanding of the export document required in Nigeria. That if I want to export in Nigeria, the kind of document that is required for me to be able to export in Nigeria at the end of the session. Both the pre and post export document, their uses, their functions, the types, the challenges the document poses, and how some of these challenges can be overcome. Uchechukwu Azi, thank you very much for joining. Good evening. Ade Omoli, thank you very much for joining. Good evening. Raf Abiod, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. International trade is likely a business of documentation, and this is due to the fact that goods can be in transit for more than 2 months. But the document gives evidence of shipment and details of the goods. The good can be in transit for more than 2 months, but the document gives evidence of shipment and also evidence of shipment and detail of the goods. This in turn gives comfort to the buyer, the broker, the bank, the insurance, and any other party involved in that transaction. Like I said, 2 months is small. Some can be 3 months. depending on where the good is going. But whatever the case is, the buyer treats the document as if they were good themselves. Now, this then poses a challenge in international trade. The fact that a buyer will have to depend on documents and pay millions of dollars, thousands of dollars, poses a challenge. The implication of that is that we then must ensure that these documents we are relying upon are genuine and verifiable. Because the unscrupulous element involved in international trade can then capitalize on this. They know that they actually capitalize on this. They actually capitalize on this to defraud unsuspecting public. They actually capitalize on this to defraud unsuspecting public. This in turn gives comfort to the buyer, the broker, the bank, the insurance, and any other party involved. Documents are so vital in international trade and therefore could jeopardize the success of an export project if not properly done. Documents are so vital and it could jeopardize the success of an international trade program. You have a trade project, if the documents are not well done, they can jeopardize it. They can destroy it. They can delay. For example, it can hinder the clearance of goods at either the port of loading or the port of discharge. Under a letter of credit transaction, it can delay payment if documents have some discrepancies. By the way, discrepancies is said to occur on the document in a letter of credit transaction when the document presented for payment does not satisfy the terms and conditions set out in the letter of credit. When the document presented for payment does not satisfy the terms and conditions set out in the letter of credit. So a letter of credit, a document is so vital, very, very vital. Very, very, very vital. And document is so important. I don't know how to explain it. I'm trying to look for words to use on the importance, the great importance, the indispensable importance, the indispensable role that documents play in a trade transaction. I've shipped goods, the good has now arrived, the buyer have received document and is going to pay based on that. It's almost entirely sure that that document that have been sent represent the goods, and that document is going to give him access to the goods. Enoch Ejukolem, thank you very much for joining. Good evening. That document is going to give him access to the goods. So that means that the document must be complete. The document must have adequate information as required. The document must meet the terms and conditions as expected. The document must help the buyer to be able to clear the goods. The document carry out, have a lot of functions. Now, in this session, I will attempt to answer a couple of questions. And this question, that's the question about documents, include: what are the documents required for export process? I'm hoping we'll be able to answer that. Where can the document be obtained? When are the documents supposed to be processed? Who are the people that need the document? Why are the documents necessary for buyer to clear the goods? Which documents are required for different category of products? How does the exporter prepare the document to be issued by his company? How does the exporter prepare the document to be issued by his company? Now, let's look at some of the uses of documents. Number one, the documents are used for duty payment. Remember, import duty are fees paid by, or tariffs paid by an importer to be able to clear the goods into his country, and that will be paid to the government of that country. The document sent by the exporter makes it possible to pay that duty. Typically, duty is a percentage of the invoice value. So the presence of an invoice, and the invoice which states the value, the invoice also states the product, those two elements contribute to the final duty payable. In some countries, they require a certificate of origin. So, to calculate the duty payable, the invoice already indicated the amount, the value of the goods. The invoice also indicated the product itself. On the strength of the product and the value, the product already gives us an idea of the duty payable. So every product has different tariff. If there is a certificate of origin and that country have a preferential treatment for the country that is exporting the good into its own country, that certificate of origin will determine the discount they are going to give on that duty payable. There was a time we wanted to export goods to China, and the Chinese were trying to get a better price from the Chinese buyer. And Chinese buyer said no, he can't reduce his price unless the good is from Niger. And that if we are able to get certificate of origin from Niger, instead of him paying, I think 15% to government of China, maybe we'll be paying about 5% because it's believed that Nigeria is a rich country, even though with so many poor people. Nigeria is a rich country, so Nigeria is richer than Niger. So Chinese government gave Niger discount on the duty that will be paid on goods from Niger into China, whereas Nigeria product was not given that kind of duty. So if I'm able to get certificate of origin from Niger, even though my good from not from Niger, they will give me that discount. I told him, no, I won't be able to do that. I mean, if the good is from Nigeria, why should I go and get certificate of origin from Niger? That I won't be able to do. I would rather look for another transaction than doing that. But where I'm going is this. That country is given a preferential treatment on the strength of a document. On the strength of a document. That tells you how vital document is to international trade. That on the strength of a document, a government can afford to collect less amount from its citizen. Why? Because it has an arrangement that makes that government to collect less amount. Why are they collecting less amount? It's collecting less amount because it's an arrangement to help Niger. But not Nigeria. Nigeria have a lot of money. And I met a lot of people outside this country that tell me that Nigeria has a lot of money. Because they know how much the government, the politicians are stealing and keeping abroad. So then they hear the mind-boggling amount that if they are stealing that kind of money from Nigeria, Nigeria is still surviving. Then Nigeria has a lot of money. So duty payment. So these documents are required. So you can see now for duty payment, we need, number one, the origin where the good is coming from, an invoice. Invoice is providing two information. It's providing the goods in question. That makes us to know the percentage of the tariff value, the percentage. And then the value of the goods. And that will be the basis for calculation. So if it is 15%, that will be 15% of the value of the goods. So if the value of the good is 100 million naira times 15%, that's 15 million naira. And that's what the importer will pay to clear the good into his country. Duty payable. Number two, insurance coverage. Insurance coverage. Insurance coverage. Insurance coverage. Another uses or the use of document in international trade is insurance. If I'm going to do an insurance, the insurance company is going to give me a rate. So for example, I'm insuring the good in transit from Nigeria to China, and the insurance company give me a rate. Maybe they gave me maybe 2% or 1.5% or 0.5%. Let's say they give me 0.5%. That 0.5% given will be calculated on the basis of the invoice. And the insurance certificate that is issued will be needed to clear the good at the other side, depending on the country. Or will be needed to be able to pay me as an exporter, depending on the terms of the LC, insurance coverage. Evidence of shipment and other use of documents. Remember, we're looking at understanding export documentation, and we're looking at it from Nigerian perspective. Evidence of shipment. An airway bill, if I'm shipping by air. A roadway bill, if I'm shipping by road. A railway bill, if I'm shipping by rail. A bill of lading, if I'm shipping by sea, are all evidence of receipt of the goods for shipment. As a matter of fact, by the time they issue that document to you, be sure that good is as good as shipped. For example, in shipping line, we don't even issue the original bill of lading on the good is on board the vessel and probably is shipped already. It's an evidence of shipment. A bill of lading is an evidence of shipment. It's an evidence of receipt of goods. It's an evidence of shipment. Donald Busayo Abi, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. Then the quality of the goods. Remember, I talked about the fact that there are some unscrupulous elements in the international trade that can deceive people, exacting money for value goods, whereas the good ship is valueless. We've had cases of a situation where someone ordered for rice to be imported, and when the container were opened, they found inside the container not rice, but they found sawdust. A case also have been heard of goods to be imported being covered, and for an untrained eye, covered look like regular stone until you pour water on it. And this person opened the container, and what was found inside the container is not covered but stone. How can you prevent that? Documentation. Documentation. So I can do a pre-export documentation, a pre-export shipment. Pre-export shipment. Pre-shipment inspection. Sorry about that. I can do a pre-shipment inspection as an importer, and that will help me to ensure that the good I am expecting is a valuable goods. So if after inspection the quality of the good is still bad, I can then hold the shipping line responsible. I can hold the inspection agent responsible. Quality inspection. Quality inspection. Quantity of the goods. You cannot rely on the invoice. You cannot rely on the packing list. You cannot rely on the bill of lading. These are all shipping documents as the basis. You can't rely on them to show that what you expect should be done has been done. You can't rely on them to show that the quantity stated on the bill of lading, on the invoice on packing list, is actually what was shipped. Invoice and packing list are prepared by the exporter. So he can lie. If he's supposed to ship 100 metric tons and he shipped 20 metric tons, he can lie. They have shipped the 100 metric tons, whereas he shipped less. The bill of lading is issued by the shipping line. But the shipping line is not there when the good is being weighed. Containers are moved from the terminal and moved down to the location where it will be loaded. After loading, the container is returned back to the port, and they simply give the shipping line what is inside the container, the name of the item, and the weight of the content, even though the shipping liner can weigh it himself. Shipping line can weigh it itself and give a weight, but remember the weight of the shipping line is including the weight of the container. You can give a net weight that is wrong, and the shipping line will write that net weight. An inspection report, a pre-shipment inspection report, just like in the quality of goods, is the solution to that. So one of the uses is that the quality inspection, the pre-shipment inspection report can give us an accurate figure on the quantity that was shipped, and accurate data on the quality of the goods that was shipped. The next one is the origin of the goods. We are looking at the uses of export document. That when you do issue export document, what exactly what kind of information does export document provide? We've talked about duty payment. We talked about insurance. We talked about evidence of shipment. We talked about quality of the goods. We talked about quantity of the goods. Now we are talking about the origin of the goods. A certificate of origin issued by, in Nigeria, it is issued by NACIMA, National Association of Chamber of Commerce and Industry. NACIMA issues certificate of origin for exporters in Nigeria. That certificate of origin issued by this NACIMA in Nigeria can then be used to determine in the destination country to determine where is these goods coming from. Then the destination port. The bill of lading gives us an idea of the destination port. It gives us an idea of the destination port because the loading port and destination port will be stated on the bill of lading. Clearing process. For the good to be clear at destination, the document is what will be used. Sometimes customs don't even bother opening the container to check what is inside. Document is what they are going to use. Document is what they are going to use to do that. Then, evidence of contract of carriage. This is similar to evidence of shipment. When I have a bill of lading in my hand, it's an evidence that the shipping line have agreed to ship the goods. And for it to be issued, it's actually an evidence that the good has been shipped. Then custom examination. This is also required in the course of clearing. Custom examination. Olawu was Samuel. Thank you very much for joining. Good evening. Ugumoroti Sheye, thank you very much for joining. Good evening. If you are just joining us, kindly help to share the talk, the seminar tonight. We are discussing understanding export documentation. One of the challenges that a lot of people have is what kind of document do I require for me to ship my good out of Nigeria? You might want to share. Kindly click the share button so that your friends can also get to see this on your timeline. Thank you very much. Now, I'm moving on. At the commencement of an export transaction, the importer and exporter sign an agreement which should have incorporated all the documents needed by the buyer and the seller in order to be able to clear the goods, use the goods, or sell the goods in the country of destination. Right in the contract, whatever the buyer requires to clear the goods should have been stated. It shouldn't be that, they said the good could not be allowed to enter into that country. Why? Because some documents were not there. That is an aberration. That should not be acceptable at all. It is assumed that the buyer is not a novice. Even if the buyer is a novice, all he needs to do is to basically go and meet people who are into clearing, and they'll be able to provide. They call them custom brokers. In Nigeria, they call them clearing and forwarding agents. And they will be able to help him to give him an idea of what he needs to do. So he doesn't need to. You shouldn't. It's an aberration for goods to arrive at destination and say, oh, they could not clear because some documents were not required. The importer should have stated in the agreement all documents required to be presented for clearing at destination port. FASCO. Thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. The document to be considered at the commencement of transaction include import country regulation or regulatory requirement or regulatory documentation, export country regulatory documentation, shipping document, document related to trade instrument, and the contract. The import country regulatory document. The importer needs to know the document needed to clear the goods, to sell the goods, and to use the goods in his own country. If you are dealing with a greenhorn, because it's possible you want to export and the person you're exporting to is importing for the first time because he saw an opportunity and is partnering with you to do that. It's very possible. So if you realize a greenhorn, tell him to discuss with custom broker in that country or custom agent in that country to give him details of document required to clear goods in that country. But more importantly, is to give you also the cost of clearing it, so that you don't import goods into that country and then you are unable to clear because the cost of clearing was too high and you were not even aware of it as at the time you started the transaction. So the importer needs to know the document needed to clear the goods and incorporate them in the sales contract as part of the document to be presented by the exporter. Every document required to clear the good at destination should be incorporated in the contract. Every document should be incorporated in the sales contract. If it's not incorporated in the sales contract, that's an error on the part of the importer, and he might have to bear those consequences because the exporter might not know, but the importer should know because he's the one that will use the document. The exporter country regulatory requirement or documentation. The exporter needs to know the document needed to apply for exportation and clear the good for export in his own country. In addition to this, he needs to know the document needed to be presented to the bank after shipment as evidence of legal exportation. In Nigeria, for example, we have pre-export documentation, we have post-export documentation. We have pre-export documentation, we have post-export documentation. And I'll be talking about that subsequently. I won't be talking about that now. I'll be discussing them in detail subsequently. So there is pre-export document and there is post-export document. There is pre-export document and there is post-export document. The post-export document involves the shipping document that the buyer will need to clear the goods and the exchange control document that the exporter needs to provide to the bank in Nigeria as an evidence of legal export. As an evidence of legal export. You need to provide that information to the bank as an evidence of legal export. And that's very critical and very important. Else, it will be deemed like you smuggle the goods. You know, there are some exporters that are actually smugglers, but they don't know they are smugglers. They export goods out without documentation. Obviously, with the connivance of people at the port, but they export goods out without documentation. And that's very, very wrong. Very, very wrong. And that's not right at all. That's not right at all. Then we have the shipping document. Irrespective of the jurisdiction where buyer reside, the basic document needed to clear goods include, in every country, the transport document, the invoice, and packing list in most countries. But not in Nigeria. To clear for import in Nigeria, there are additional other details. But in most countries, bill of lading or airway bill or roadway bill, depending on the mode of transport, the transport document, the invoice and the parking list. The transport document, the invoice and the parking list. What I will try to do in the session in the morning tomorrow, by the way, the session tomorrow morning is 8 a.m. In the evening during the week, it's 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. It's 8 a.m., 6 p.m. I will try to get some of these documents and show you so that you can be able to appreciate the document. I'll try to get some of these documents and show you so you might be able to appreciate the document. So you can know how the document look like. Uhuo Celestine Otu, thank you very much for joining. Good evening. Tochib Onunaku, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. Ekundayo Timi, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. The fourth one is the document related to trade instrument. These are documents that are to be issued in favor of the seller in order to provide the needed comfort and assurance of payment. Sometimes it's issued in favor of the buyer to give an assurance of shipment of the right quality and right quantity, on time and in time. Example of trade instrument include letter of credit, standby letter of credit, and demand guarantee. Letter of credit, standby letter of credit, and demand guarantee. And lastly for tonight, the contract. This is the focal point of the business relationship. It is a very pivotal and central document that states the role and obligation of the importer and exporter. As a matter of fact, contract is the foundation of a trade transaction. Sales contract, purchase order, sales agreement is the foundation of an international sales trade transaction. Thank you very much for listening again this evening. My name remains Dele Ayemibo, and this is Import-Export platform brought to you by 3 Impest Trade Academy. And it happens every day, both weekday and weekend. On weekday, we are live 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. And on weekday, we are live. On weekday, we are live 8 a.m., 6 p.m. And on weekends, Saturday, 7 a.m. Saturday morning, 7 a.m. Sunday, the early session is 2 p.m. And then on Saturday and Sunday in the evening, we come up by 8 p.m. Thank you very much for listening again today. See you tomorrow morning by 8 a.m. Have a good evening.